Hey, if you guys are struggling with your chipping, maybe sometimes you hit them a little bit fat, sometimes you hit them thin and they shoot across the green, we got the best lesson for you. This is my buddy Mike here, and he loses probably 15 or 20 strokes around the greens.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Really rough with the chipping, but Ed gave him this lesson, and you won't believe the transformation in just about 15 minutes. He's hitting just amazing chips, just like you'd see on tour. So watch this video and implement what you learn, and I think you'll be amazed at how good your chipping game becomes.
For starters, this is your 58-degree club. Okay?
Right.
So that's what we're going to use today.
Okay.
Okay? I would like you to just try to hit some shots for me that maybe go 15 or 20 yards. You'll see that one went 18 yards, so you can see how easy I swung there, okay?
Okay.
I want you just to do and get loose and warm up a little, and let me watch and see what you're doing, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
That was a pretty good one.
See, it was kind of,
That's, I understand.
Like,
That happens
jerky.
a lot, right?
yeah, a little jerky. I have a hard time controlling that.
It's okay.
And a few of those missed
All right.
hits. Sometimes when I do a full swing, I've had much better contact. When I really cut down on my swing, it seems like the contact ain't as good. It should be the other way around, but so yeah, you're seeing a little bit of everything that happens on the course. I know you taught a lot of guys. I'm not sure if you ever had to tell somebody maybe they should find another sport.
I haven't yet.
You haven't yet? Okay. Well, that's good. We all got hope, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about a couple things.
All right.
So one, I have your 58-degree wedge, okay? And if I was to measure it in a loft lie machine to see exactly how much loft is on the face, I'd sole it flat, okay? And if I do that, do you see how far forward the handle is of the face? So that's 58 degrees,
Okay.
okay? So when you set up, you're set up like this. And do you see that that makes it really difficult to get this part of the club underneath the ball?
Okay.
And so what happens to you is you either try to go under it and then you chunk it.
Right.
And then if you don't hit the ground, then it hits that edge there and it's going to be that skull that goes over the green. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
really both shots are the same mistake.
Okay.
So you're not making multiple mistakes when
All
it's
right.
just whether you hit the ground or not.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, especially here in Missouri where you're playing most of your golf, right? I like guys to learn to use a pretty lofted club because all our greens are elevated, most of the courses, and greens aren't very big. And so you've got to learn to hit it high up in the air and stop it on the green. So
Okay.
a lot of guys that have chipping trouble get less lofted clubs and they make putting strokes, and that's pretty good on a chip and run, but it doesn't work very good if you can't land it on the green and stop it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that seems to be the shot I have to go to, the chip and run.
Right.
It's the safest shot for me.
It is, and it's the safest shot for most people.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But you can only do it when the opportunity presents itself with the
Exactly.
flag far enough away and you're not
Nothing
very
in
far
front,
off
no
the
sand
green.
in front of you or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but if you can learn to use this club correctly, it'll really help you, okay?
Okay.
Stand over here on this side for me and let me show you a couple things. So, frankly, you do a lot of things right. Your path with the club isn't too bad, okay? But you have too wide of a stance to start with,
Okay.
okay? And so with a power swing, we want our feet apart. So if you're hitting driver or
Right.
whatever. But on these short shots, if you have your stance too wide and you put a little too much weight on your back foot, well, you're going to bottom out back here. And if you put too much weight on your front foot, you're going to bottom out up here.
Gotcha.
So it'll really help you to bottom out correctly if your feet are a lot closer together, almost touching. Do you see that?
Okay.
And then you can kind of either keep a little more weight on your left the whole time, okay? or
Okay.
just make sure you're 50-50 on both feet the whole time.
Okay.
And frankly, for most guys at first, if your feet are together, it's pretty easy just to stand with both feet with where you feel equal weight.
Okay.
Okay? And then because this handle should be forward a little bit, okay?
Right.
Then that means the ball needs to be back here by our back foot,
Okay.
not in the middle.
Okay.
Okay? And so do you see how I set up there and I do this? Does that make sense?
Right. Right.
And so that's how I'd like you to set up for me, okay?
Okay.
The key point in chipping is that we have to move this end of the club and this end of the club the same direction while we're doing it. So if you'll see, I'll do it in slow motion. So if you'll watch that end, as the head goes back, the handle goes back, but do you see I'm moving the whole club?
Okay.
And all you're trying to move is the bottom of the club, the head.
Okay,
Does that
gotcha.
make sense?
Yeah.
And so your handle is going
Yeah,
back and
yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
And we don't want it to go back and
Okay.
forth on short shots.
Okay.
Okay? The best players, the tour players, the handle doesn't move, even go with their drivers moving with the club head, okay?
Okay.
But especially chipping, we want the head and the handle to move the same direction. Okay? So set up here for me,
All
where
right.
you can just take a couple practice swings. And I'm going to set the club there. That's the angle it should be on, okay? As this club would come back, it has to go up, okay?
Okay.
And then as we go through, the handle will go forward. So your arms will work a little independent on the follow through of your body. And try not to move your knees at all,
All right.
okay?
Okay.
Because that means you're shifting weight.
Right.
So that's still moving your right knee too much.
Yeah.
So really, just really try to keep them steady. There we go. And go ahead and set up to it for me and just try to make that motion.
Okay.
And wait for me just a second. Go ahead and take your stance. So that those hands will be forward. And when you hit the ball, they're going to be forward. So
Okay.
if I had my hand here, you would hit my hand with your thumb there as you go through. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And just
Okay.
try it there. You might miss hit a few doing this at first.
Okay.
Good. Hands more forward. A little more forward. Good, right there. And move that. Just feel like you're moving the grip. You're not even worried about the club head.
Okay.
Good. That was much better. And one of the things I want you to notice here on the screen, so do you see where it says attack angle?
Okay.
That's TrackMan can measure that, and when it's we want it to be negative like that. So -6 is really good. Okay.
Okay.
You were 0 a lot with the other ones.
Okay.
Okay. And so whenever we hit chips and pitches, we want it to be minus.
Okay.
Really good players would be -10 or 12 on that number on this
Okay.
shot, okay? But it has to do with how far your hands are forward at impact, okay?
All right.
So you're doing great. So just keep swinging like that for me.
Okay.
And that one carried 10 yards and would have rolled another 10 yards probably, okay? And just
Little
keep the,
risky.
yeah, just keep those legs still.
Oh yeah, that's. I don't know why.
Yeah, but that's what I see. I saw it with your feet apart. So even a little closer together. Keep
Okay.
going closer together. Only an inch apart. Keep going.
Okay.
There we go. That's close together.
All right. All right.
And just keep your weight still. You don't want to even move from the knees down.
Okay.
Hands forward. Yep, good. Good. Do it again. That's all right.
Yeah, I think once I get used to this position and motion, I can maybe get a little more control on the swing, the pace.
that'll be easy once we work on a couple other things. That one was great.
That one felt good.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
good.
that one had.
Those sound way different than your first
I know, right?
And do you see
Yeah,
how
it had that nice sweet spot
yeah, and
sound.
do you see how straight they're going now? See,
Okay.
that's your trace. That's where the ball's going, just straight down
Okay.
where we're aiming. So that's really good, okay?
In the past, I never felt comfortable with the club like this in this position, swinging, so I never continued to work at it.
It's okay.
Yeah. Maybe I was getting too wristy.
Yeah, if you get wristy with your hands that far forward, then the club will get longer, and then you will chunk it. Does that make sense? All right, I want you to wait for me just a second,
All right.
and I want you to take some practice swings. And one of my favorite ways to practice chipping is with an alignment stick. We've showed this on quite a few of our videos. But if I put a stick that's behind the ball 6 inches or so,
right.
okay, you shouldn't hit that.
Right.
You should go up and down over that
Yeah.
during your stroke. And so
yeah, I'd
you're going,
seen that, and I'm coming in low.
You are, and you're,
Yeah,
and you're
coming
going
in low.
back low.
Okay. Okay.
So once you go back low,
That's it.
you're
Yeah.
stuck. So
Okay.
let's take some practice swings where we
Okay.
set up right here.
All
and,
right.
and let's just try to make sure we go over that stick and down. And you're trying to brush the turf on the way through, okay?
All right.
And see, I like guys making practice strokes when they're playing because, see, you can see where you're hitting the turf each time
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Do you see that? And that's
Yeah.
where the ball should go.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Still a little straighter back, too, on the way back. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
So there you go.
Yeah, that's okay. That'd be the ones you blade.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right? Yep. Now that's easy to do without the ball.
Correct.
So let's try to do it with the ball.
Okay.
That's- And so even in the backyard with some little shag balls or something, this would be a great drill for you, is just to have this stick here
Okay.
and learn not to hit it. And it won't
Gotcha.
take you very long. I bet you in a week you'll figure it out.
All right.
How'd that feel?
Felt good.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
good.
it felt good. Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk back here so I can see you from behind, okay?
All right.
There we go, good shot.
You'll notice your angle of attack's always going to be pretty negative with that too.
Yes. Attaway.
Am I too close to the ball? Should I try it a little further out here, maybe?
Just a little. I like to be about 12 inches away from it, from my
Okay.
toes. That was the closest that's a good question. That's the closest I'd seen you, just right there. So for the most part, you've been pretty good.
Okay.
Good, just didn't brush the grass.
All right.
Those are still much better though, let me tell you. Nice shot. Those feel better?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Those are like 90
Yeah.
compared to the first ones you're hitting.
They definitely are.
And this is hard to do off of this turf. This is tighter lie than what you get on the golf course.
Right,
so,
right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think that's outstanding. So. Hands a little more. There you go. That's okay.
There you go.
I know.
Yeah.
You would have hit it every time
Right.
before we started talking. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So only that
definitely-
you've only hit it a few times
And
is pretty awesome, okay? But
Yeah,
that's when you get flippy with your hands and the club's
Exactly.
too low, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
a pitch or a chipping motion is different than putting. Putting, we want the putter to go low to the ground and
Correct.
side to side because we're
Correct.
rolling the ball. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But these we want to get up in the air, so we have to be a lot more vertical with the club. It's a
Okay.
more up and down motion, and so that's
Right.
why I like having that stick there. You can see, you know, with that stick there, how much the club has to go up and down to miss it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You almost want to feel like the shaft in your left arm are almost in a straight line.
Okay.
Good shot. A little thin, but it's still
Yeah.
a good shot.
Yeah.
You'd hit a good shot on the green there. It's okay. And that's when the butt end of the club isn't moving forward. When you flip your hands, it goes backwards.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so I don't like for players to try not to flip. I like them to swing the club forward and they won't flip.
Okay.
Okay? It's hard to tell yourself what not to do.
You're right.
Your brain doesn't listen to that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But if you tell it what to do, it'll listen to it. So we want the handle going forward with the club head. Okay? And a good little practice drill for that, just stand next to me here, is if you choke down on the club and you put the handle against your forearm like this, you can just do it one-handed.
Okay.
And see, if I flip, the handle will go away from my
Oh,
forearm.
yeah, there you go.
So we really can't
Leave
set
that
up like
snug in
this.
there.
But boy, if you can just get that feeling of this pendulum motion
Yeah, yeah.
like that, it'll help you.
I
So
like
do
that.
that.
Yeah.
So, yep, just hold it in there. Yep, choke down a little more. Good.
Right in here.
Yep. And then just swing that back and forth. You can feel how you're moving the whole club. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And that's the key to being a great chipper is you have to move the whole club. It doesn't swing very far. And because we're hitting the turf as slow as we're swinging, the follow through is not very long at all. We shouldn't really try to follow through.
Okay.
And
Right.
does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think most people are trying to follow through with everything, and you can't do
I'm
that.
so
chipping.
guilty of that.
Yeah,
So
understand?
guilty of that.
So now go ahead and hold it normal.
Go back to the regular.
Yeah, regular
Okay.
grip.
All
And we're
right.
going to hit some shots, but then almost imagine that that's
The
the
same-
club's
that
in
same
there. And
feel.
yes, and you're going to get that same feel.
Gotcha.
Good shot.
And look at that, -9. These are awesome.
And it's raining outside, so we're inside. But see, I actually, for somebody that needs to improve their technique chipping, I actually like to do it inside. We're not distracted by where the
Right.
hole is,
Exactly.
you know, and you're not
Yeah.
distracted where your ball goes because it's hitting the screen 10
right,
feet away.
Right.
And so this is really
Just
a good way to
concentrate
do
on
it.
just
yes.
right
Yep.
here.
Chipping in.
That was my plan. I was like, I'm taking everything home from today and start working on it the right way instead of trying to figure out what the right way is. Yeah.
The right way is what produces the most consistent results for each player.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
And us being in the Midwest, what I found is this method's probably the easiest to learn and the most consistent. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Gosh, if you look on YouTube or if you look in the archives of Golf Magazine or Golf Digest, there's thousands
There's
of
different
different techniques. And it's because there's different grasses in different parts of the world. Okay.
Gotcha.
And so that's where a player's got to be careful of what they choose to adopt as their method. Frankly, if you were in South Florida, this probably wouldn't be the best way to set up and hit most chip shots off of Bermuda.
Right.
And so that's why there's different methods.
So
but for-
this is working good for like 10-yard, 20, 30. What if I'm getting 40, 50?
You might go to your 50-degree wedge and hit the same
Same
shot
shot
that
with
would
the
go 30
less
with
loft.
this one. It would
Okay.
go 50.
Gotcha.
Or just learn to swing faster.
Okay.
There's a lot of really good players that can use this same technique and they generate enough speed to hit it 60 or 70 yards with this club.
Okay.
Okay. And so, but I always warn people to learn these 10, 15 yarders
Well, yeah.
first.
Yeah.
So you get the technique right. And then you can gradually increase, you know, the speed of your turn and the speed of your arms. But you still got to be able to swing the whole club. And when most people start going faster, that's when they try to do it with their hands.
Exactly.
So I would tell you for the next few months, just focus on 30 yards and in and don't worry about longer yet. Okay? All right?
Okay.
Frankly, with your 58-degree, let me have your club. If you set up with the club in the middle of you like this, because it adds so much loft, you could almost make a full swing and just go 50 yards.
Right.
And without
Exactly.
a chipping technique. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I would probably recommend for you. Stick
Okay.
with 30 and in with this. Experiment a little bit with your other wedges to see how far they go. Okay. But just learn this basic one first and you'll be better. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And don't underestimate how important it is to have your feet a lot closer together. That was the first thing I told you. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's really that's the biggest difference because I've never had them swung like this, and I'm so used to being like this.
I agree.
But with one thing about being wider apart, it seems like it throws. Just this arm doesn't want to do what it can do
when you're together,
When you're together.
I agree with that because your hips turn more.
Yeah.
When your feet are together.
Yeah.
And if you
They're
watch
kinda
really
working
good
against each
players
other.
chip, you know, they turn their hips completely on these finishes. I mean, it's pointing at the target, their hips. So. And because you said that, I would say this, is that something has to move the club. And we want it to be our arms and our hips, okay? If I'm wider than that, well, then my hips don't turn very much. And so something's got to move the club, and I'm going to have to move it with my hands.
There you go. Yeah.
And then that's a mistake that
Yeah.
most people make when they're chipping. So that's another good point you brought up, is by having your feet closer together, it allows you to really turn with your hips.
Yeah.
And if your hips keep turning, then your arms can swing, but you don't have to use your hands. And so a lot of people are handsy in their chipping just because they have to be, because that's the
their
only
legs
thing
are
that
too
can
far
move.
apart.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
they can't. Yeah.
Understand? Yeah, that's really a good comment. Could have been your best one.
All right.
See, and that one went 15 yards in the air. And it's
Okay.
going to roll another 10 or 15, 20 feet, okay? Much better. Pretty good. Aren't those a lot more consistent?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so now it feels like it's just a matter of hitting it square in the middle of the club, because the stroke is feeling so much better, and the angle of the club's coming down.
Yeah, that stick makes you correct that angle on the way down. Can you see that?
Yeah.
The last thing I'll tell you, and I can't really show you inside since this is level ground, but as I take my swing with my hands forward, do you see that I'm going to hit the same spot in the carpet every time?
Okay.
So when I'm playing, I always like to take a couple practice swings
All right.
and see where my club
where
is
it's
hitting the ground.
Yeah.
And that's where I put the ball. Okay? And so when the terrain changes and we're uphill or downhill, where the ball goes should change too. The more the ground would be tilted this way, because my club's going to hit the ground a lot farther forward
Right.
But you'll see that in your practice swing. And so you can play it there. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah.
And if the ground's tilted this way and we're going this way, well, I'm going to run into the ground a lot sooner. So, man, there's times on a downhill lie where I have to play the ball that far back in my stance.
Gotcha.
That de-lofts the club even more because my hands are even more forward.
Right.
So I have to play for a low shot. Okay. And then we talked about that distance away from the ball, that I like to be a foot or so on these chips, but that's on level ground too. If the ball was above my feet, do you see how far away the club would be to hit the ground? I'd have to be that far away.
Or vice versa, yeah.
And if I'm downhill, shoot, I've hit chip shots where I was just 2 or 3 inches. But I always take a practice swing
To see how that.
and see where the club bottoms out. And where it bottoms out, I put the ball. And that's the simplest way to remember it.
Okay.
And so that's why it's a good, you know, I don't hardly ever take a practice swing on a full shot, okay? But boy, on short pitches, I like to take practice swings to see where to put the ball, okay? And to try to get a sense for how fast do I need to swing to hit my landing spot.
Okay.
So I'm doing both things in a practice swing. I'm seeing how fast do I need to move the club, and I'm seeing where it strikes the ground.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
All right.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah,
Good.
Yeah, lots of big improvement.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
get it'll
big
get even
improvement.
better in a month or two as you just stick with it and I would stick with this technique. The good thing about that, especially here in the Midwest, is you can probably hit 80 or 90% of your shots around the green with this club with that same technique. And there might be another, 10, 15, 20% that you might chip and run it,
Right.
or hit a flop shot when you learn how to hit those. But this will cover almost every situation you'll run into. Okay.
Well, and then I easily lose 12, 13, 14 strokes around when I'm around the green, just because they're just either going too far, too short.
Yep.
So yeah, it's
Yep. You'll hit it in the middle of the club face more often. You've probably got better distance control than you think. It's just when you're mishitting it, you can't control the distance.
there we
And
go.
so once you get the hang of that, you'll be fine.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
I
Much
look forward to
appreciated.
hearing about your progress.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Hey, if you guys enjoyed this, Ed made a video about the Scottie Scheffler chipping method. It's similar to what he showed Mike here, but even a little bit more detail on how Scottie does it. And I think you guys would really enjoy it. You can watch it on your screen or in the description.